Well, Rocky's had a little feed in his cage, and now he's gone under my wagon again. He's kind of alternating between the cage and under the wagon to sleep. Um, I think he's doing a little better today, and I'm glad of that. Um, anyway, I'm going to tell you a story. Again, it's a story of, well, really, it's a story of stupidity, is what it is. And it's a story from when I was a young man. I kind of do these videos. It's almost like I'm making a, well, actually, I shouldn't say it's almost like it is. What I'm doing is I'm partially, at least, making a video record of my life, so that when I'm no longer here, these stories will still be around. These stories will still be out there, you know. And, you know, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, the whole works of it. And if you're going to be honest, you got to be totally honest. Anyway, in my hometown, there was a laundromat. This back in the mid-1980s. And the laundromat had an entrance off the street downtown, and it had another entrance off a parking lot in the back. Well, I had an old Chev Bel Air car, an old aquamarine colored four-door sedan, $200 car, you know, 1967 Chev Bel Air with an old straight six engine in it and all that, you know. Anyway, AM radio and a heater, that was it. Bench seat, great old car though, it was tough as nails, that car, I'll tell you. I wish I had it now. But anyway, here's the story. I pull into the lot in back of this laundromat one Saturday afternoon. I'm going to do my laundry. It'd be back around 1985, 86, somewhere in there. And I was only about 17, 18 years old. Anyway, I pull in there. I noticed there's a couple of scummy-looking a-hole type guys standing around by the back door, you know. When I pulled in there, I saw them. I remember thinking those two look like they could be trouble, you know. But, you know, you don't let people stop you from doing what you need to do. So I park my car and I get the laundry bundle out and start heading anyway in. Of course, they turned and went inside. When I went in, they went inside ahead of me, and they were sitting on chairs then at the front of the place. Well, one of them was sitting on a chair. The other one was leaning against the wall further back in the laundromat. Anyway, I got my laundry into the washing machine and, you know, put my quarters in and my soap and all that. Got the machine going, you know, you put the quarters into the slots and shove the thing in with the palm of your hand or whatever, and you go, ka-chunk, you know, and you'd hear the chains drop down and then the thing would start. Anyway, I got the machines running, a couple of machines, my laundry in them. And then I decided I was going to have a look at the bulletin board. There was a bulletin board up near the front of the laundromat, near to the door. So I go up there. Well, that was right close to where one of these two was sitting. Anyway, I'm looking at the bulletin board. And he says to me, what you looking for? Case of AIDS? I thought, okay, here we go, now it's on, you know. Kind of knew this was going to happen. And of course, these guys, you know, they're cowards normally, but when they got back up, they're brave. And you got to bear in mind, in those days, AIDS was considered a disease of the homosexual. So what they were doing really is, what this guy was doing is he was calling me a homosexual, which was calling my manhood into question. You got to bear in mind the mentality that we had in those days, you know. I know it's not very politically correct by modern standards, but in those days, if you told a man that you figured he was a homosexual, you were telling him that you didn't think he was a real man. And as a young man, I couldn't allow that to stand, you know. I couldn't be challenged that way and just let it stand. And so, I just looked down at him, and I said, what? I said, is that wishful thinking on your part? because I said, no, you won't get any play here. I said, like that. Basically, I put it back on him. Well, he got up on his feet. He said, what'd you say to me? And I said, what'd you say to me? Well, he gave me a punch in the chest, to sucker punch me. And there was a table in the middle of the room to fold laundry on, and I went up against that table, knocked me right back against the table, hit me square in the chest, knocked me back against the table. Well, I rebounded off the table. I used that energy. I did this before in fights too, when guys would hit me. I guess they teach you how to do this when you learn martial arts, but I never studied martial arts. It's just something that I used to do because I wasn't all that strong, really. But I could use the other guy's energy against him, and I picked up on that early on. So I rebounded off the table, and I gave him a good smack in the mouth, and the blood poured out of his mouth. I heard something fly across the room. It sounded like a pebble or something, so I'm thinking I might have knocked a tooth out of his head, but I don't know. I do know his mouth bled a lot. Well, then his friend started to come from the back, and I thought, oh shit, I better not still be here. And so I got out of there. I run. The two of them chased me down the street for a couple blocks, and then they gave up and turned around and went back. I didn't dare go back there until later that night. When I went back there later that night, I left my car in the parking lot. When I went back there later that night, all 4 of my tires were slashed, and my laundry was nowhere to be found. I found my laundry in a garbage can on the street, about half a block from the laundromat. That's where it was. I started looking in the garbage in the laundromat at first, and then I started going up and down the street checking the garbage pails, and I found my laundry anyway, in a municipal garbage can. Anyway, that's the story. I had to get my car floated out of there on a flat deck, and I ended up buying 4 used tires for my car at $5 a piece, which doesn't sound like much now, but that was $20. It represented half a day's labor working at the wire factory where I worked at Central Wire, because I got paid $5 an hour, and I worked an 8-hour shift every night. So anyway, that's the story. Just stupidity and foolishness. I got into another bad one that year with a guy where he put my head through a gas pump, actually busted the glass out of the gas pump. At the old mechanical gas pumps that had the numbers, that mechanical numbers that rolled around, and there was a big sheet of glass covering it. Well, I had that busted with my head one time too, and the girl that worked in the gas kiosk, because it was a self-serve gas station, she called the police. They came up and they told me it was my fault, that I had disrespected the guy by not answering his question. He had wanted to know what car I was driving. I was there working, cleaning up the parking lot. I used to do that on Saturday nights, and I'd get $10 for about 3 hours work, and they'd also provide my supper, because they had a restaurant there. It was a Texaco station with the convenience store and the restaurant, but I would never eat there because I saw what went on in the kitchen. The chef was the chef was a real pig anyway, and he'd be digging in his arse, have his hands down those white pants and that white shirt the chefs wore, or cooks wore. Have his hand down his pants, digging in his arsehole and stuff anyway, and then he'd be handling the food, or he'd be wiping his nose across his wrist and the back of his hand and handling the food and stuff. So I'd never eat there anyway. But yeah, anyway, the police said that I had caused that. The guy, it turns out, wanted to know what car I was driving so that he could smash it up, because he was mad at a family member of mine. Had nothing to do with me, his dispute, but he was mad at a relation of mine, is what it was. And actually, he was in the wrong in that dispute too, but he was mad anyway, and he found out that I was a relation of this person. My neck's bothering me still. He found out I was a relation of this person, and he thought he was going to do me some harm anyway. He was going to smash my car up. That's what it was. But anyway, crazy things that happened, you know. People think society's violent now, and in many ways it is, I guess. It's when that now they bring the guns out and whatnot, you know. In those days it was more fists. But I'll tell you, you could get into a lot of trouble in an awful hurry just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time in those days. That happened to me a few times, where I got into situations I'd have preferred not to get into, just because some yahoo with a chip on his shoulder was looking to prove something or whatever, you know. Anyway, that's just another story from the old days. I'm sure anybody my age or older remembers how it was, and a lot of the guys listening to this, I'm sure, could tell similar stories, things that happened when they were young, you know. Like I say again, guys my age or older, most of us went through that. I know I had my day of it anyway, and I'm kind of glad to be an old guy now. Being an old codger ain't all bad. Anyway, I'm breathing a little easier now than I was earlier. Rocky seems to be a little bit better than he was too. I'm keeping my eye on him though. I won't say my breathing's 100% now, but it's a lot better than it was even an hour ago. Anyway, that's it for now, I guess. We'll talk to y'all later.